Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Society of the Eternal Mile podcast. I'm your host, Noah Sias. On today's episode, we're joined by bassist Seth Stone. You may know of his work from the band Aenimus. Seth has also spent the last 4 years as a booking agent for two different agencies, Sojourner Booking and Artery Global. Before we get started, just a couple quick announcements, as always. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on whatever platform you listen on. You can find the show on iTunes, Google Play Music, and YouTube. Also, make sure you're following the show on social media. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are at SOTEM Podcast. And if you like what you hear today, consider checking out the show's Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can show your support and be rewarded for doing so. For more information, head over to Patreon, patreon.com/SOTEM podcast. My first interaction with Seth was indirect. Bermuda rented Seth's van for the Vertebroken run in 2015. We also rented it again for the two fall tours we had, the Lucid Revolution tour and the Canadian Moose Knuckle tour. I wouldn't actually meet Seth until March of 2016 on the Macho Man Tour Part 2. Our tour package merged with Seth's in Bremerton, Washington at the Charleston. As it seems to be with a lot of first-time interactions on the road, we didn't get much of an opportunity to talk other than just a quick exchange before our sets. So this episode was our first opportunity to have a conversation one-on-one, and here it is. Seth, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you.
Let's start from the beginning. When did you first get involved with music?
When I was 14, I started playing bass. So, like my sophomore year of high school.
Who were some of your early influences?
Billy Sheehan, the bassist of Mudvayne, definitely too. Two guys that really got me when I first started.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Aenimus. How did Aenimus get started?
Aenimus started in around 2011. I was in a band before that was just kind of a small band, and we moved to the Bay Area. When that band broke up, the vocalist and guitarist and I started up Aenimus. And so we had known each other for years already and just collectively found another guitarist and drummer and went from there.
So the band has two releases with a third on the way. You have 2011's self-titled demo, 2013's Transcend Reality, and the new one coming out. Let's talk about your upcoming release. There's been quite a gap between your most current release and this one. What was the inspiration for this new release?
The new release is called Dreamcatcher. I guess it's inspired off of horror novels and movies. That was the main lyrical concept behind it, was different characters' perspectives throughout these stories, so kind of retelling them. And we utilized their emotions to really give us an idea what directions to go in the songs. So being that it's multiple stories, it really created a really diverse album.
Nice.
So it was really cool. And being that they were horror flicks, or novels that we were trying to portray musically, it added a lot of thematic approaches to it. So there's a lot of synth work and orchestral parts, and it's pretty sweet.
Nice. Who did you go through for production?
Jamie King. He is known for Between the Buried and Me, The Contortionist, several good prog records he's put out. And so we went to him. We recorded it ourselves, but we sent it to him for all the mixing and mastering. So
it always pays when you can do a lot of that tracking ahead of time. Saves you.
Oh yeah, saves a lot of money, and you can take it at your own pace because you're not worried about wasting money, tracking it. So we were able to focus and really get the best takes that we could get. So
for sure. Do you guys have a release date for it?
Not currently. It'll definitely be next year. We're kind of doing all the business stuff. We're in talks with a label. And once we get that all figured out, then we'll get the release all prepped. So.
Cool. So you guys have been to the grind for a while. How many tours have you done so far?
Somewhere between 12 to 15 tours since 2013, yeah.
Of those tours, any highlights?
I think a lot of them have been fun. I think probably the most successful tour we did was with Rings of Saturn. That was because we've only done a couple support tours. A lot of it's been headlining. But that tour did really well and was a lot of fun. And it was kind of a transition for the band because half our band ended up joining Rings of Saturn. So, which is kind of why our album took so long,
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Our drummer, Aaron, and our guitarist, Miles, are playing for Rings of Saturn. And that happened. Aaron actually did double duty on that tour. And then Miles joined a few months after that tour. Yeah. Anything
left for you guys for the remainder of the year?
Not really, as far as like any shows or anything. We don't have anything scheduled. We're all scattered around the country, so we can really only get together when we're touring, and there's nothing in the books right now.
Sure.
So we're just trying to get this album all set. We already have like 9 different videos, including music videos and playthroughs, all ready to go. It's literally done. It's just figuring out all the business side of things now.
Sure. So, yeah. In other words, sounds like 2018 is the year.
It is the year. It'll be time we release Dreamcatcher, finally.
Awesome. Let's switch gears over to some gear talk. Who are you endorsed through?
I'm endorsed by Ernie Ball Music Man, play bongo basses. I have a 5 and a 6 string. They're amazing instruments. And the first one I got was actually used, and it was like gutted. So I literally bought the body and the neck. And then I got hooked up through E&G for all the electronics and got them all installed, and found all the tuners in the bridge online, used, and just put it all together and fell in love completely. So I got with the company, and since then got another 6 string, and they're really great. I used them on Transcend Reality, and I used them on Dreamcatcher. So
very nice.
We're also endorsed by 64 Audio, which does in-ears, which are great. The quality is astounding, and I have an older model with it has 6 different drivers in it. Being able to have quality sound, as a musician, in your monitor is really important. So in-ears have really changed that for me, going from having a crappy on-stage monitor mix, and now I get to have complete control via the computer of what's in my ears, and it sounds great with the 64 Audios. So
it's interesting how it seems like the last couple years, a lot of people are making that transition over to like whole band running in-ears now, instead of just like a drummer setup.
Yeah, we did that for a long time, where it was just the drummer who had the in-ears or over-the-head earphones, and we're slowly transitioning now. 3 of us have them, and we are slowly going to get the whole band all set up, so.
Nice. Back over to your bass setup. What's your signal chain looking like these days?
My signal chain was, for my bass, into a Tech 21 Sans amp. And then in the effects loop, I had a compressor noise gate. And then I would either go direct, or I would go into a power amp and into my Mesa Powerhouse cab, which is the 4x10 and 15 all in one unit. I was doing that for a long time, until when we were in Europe this summer. Some power issue happened, even though we used all the proper step downs, and it fried my setup. So it's only been 1 tour, but I just set it all up direct through the laptop, which actually sounded really good. I was pretty shocked.
Nice. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options these days inside of like bass modeling inside of a DAW.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was, I downloaded a plugin that was essentially the Tech 21 Sans amp pedal, and just a few tweaks, and I got it running. So that's what I'm doing now. I don't know if I'm going to do it forever or not, but we were considering bringing the guitarists who are using Axe Effects currently. We were considering just running them through the DAW as well. So we'll see.
Any items on your wish list?
I would like to play around with the dark glass. I'm sure I'll get one someday. I really don't like the fact it's a pedal though. And they have like an amp version, but I don't need a power amp. So like it'd be really nice if they just had like a rack version that was just the preamp. So maybe someday they'll have that. And,
yeah, hopefully. Hey, go talk to them about it.
Right?
Like, hey, I got this idea.
Right.
All right, so let's have a discussion about the Eternal Mile. When was your first tour, and what was the lineup?
Well, my first tour ever was with my old high school band, Amelia's Rose, and we just went by ourselves. And it was really shot and pretty shitty. The one night that we had a guarantee, literally the one night, we got stiffed. Of course, good old Klamath Falls, Oregon. It was kind of funny because like the promoter, like before we played, like announced that he wasn't going to be able to pay us the $100 he guaranteed us, and like asking if any bands or people who were attending the show would mind donating.
Oh man.
I was like, dude, this is legit, So yeah, that was my first experience, sleeping in a overcrowded van with all the gear. There was 5 of us and only 4 seats. It was pretty sweet.
Any particular markets you enjoy playing in?
We've done most of the country, and so far, my 3 favorite markets are definitely Portland, Denver, and Austin. Every time we go out there, it's just a blast. Like, we have a lot of fans that show up and just a lot of friends that we've made, from fans, so it's always a lot of fun. Portland especially is like a second hometown to us. Like, well, we don't even really have a hometown. The band originated in the Bay Area, but, having members all scattered, and I'm the only original. So,
favorite venues?
Tomcats West is definitely one of my favorite venues to play. The sound engineer there is fantastic and just nails it every time. And I was very close friends with Rustin, who recently passed away, who was the owner for a long time. So I think that's probably my favorite place to, like, my favorite venue, So
favorite city to have a day off in?
There's so much to do in Portland, and there's lots of good food and breweries to go to, and a lot of friends out there. So,
what would you consider to be the biggest rookie mistake being on tour?
Probably being on tour way before we ever should have. It's one thing that, like, being a booking agent myself nowadays, like, I always stress to bands, like, don't go on tour until you're ready. Like, until you're able to go out there and not lose your ass on money, like at least break even. There's no point in touring if you're going to play in front of nobody. Like, and we did that. We definitely did that. So yeah, I think that's the biggest rookie move.
Top 3 must-have tour items.
A GPS, because you can never trust your damn cell phone. Baby wipes, or baby powder.
Yep.
Lots of socks and underwear.
Absolutely.
Never know when you're going to be able to do your laundry, because certainly you're not going to be able to afford to go to a laundromat. So, yeah.
Here's one of the great debate questions. Radio on or radio off in the van?
I feel like there's a time where you can have it on and where you shouldn't. Like, if people are awake, like, sure, turn on some tunes if everyone's going to enjoy it. But, like, that's one thing that, like, I really, try to do is respect my bandmates who are, trying to sleep. I do most of the early morning drives, starting at, like, 4 or 5 a.m. So, 2, maybe 3 of them stayed up until 4 or 5, doing that night drive. So, like, when I start in the mornings, I'll like to, if I'm going to listen to something, it'll be, a podcast with my headphones. But if it's in the middle of the afternoon, some good tunes is always nice. So,
in my experience on the road, I've found that a lot of people often have misconceptions about what it is that we do. And in many cases, it's often over glamorized. What are some of the wilder things you've been asked or told in regards to being on the road?
One thing that I get asked constantly is if my wife and now my daughter go on tour with me. And like in my head, I'm just thinking like, no, like why would you ever even consider that? You know, not because I don't want to be with them. I love hanging out with them, but they would never want to go on tour with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tour is just a constant state of when do I get a shower?
Yep. When do I shower? I'm grumpy because I haven't slept. Like, just I'm cramped in the van. Like, where's my stuff at? So yeah, that and some people still think in metal music there's all the women, the groupies, and it's like, no, this isn't 80s hair metal days. Like, I'm talking about a bunch of stinky dudes coming out to these shows. So I think that's a common misconception. It's definitely over glamorized. Where we're at, there's no tour bus or anything like that. So
to further that point, let's go over some of the less glamorous moments in your career. Do you have any horror stories while on stage?
One thing that happens frequently, tear my pants, like right in the crotch. Like, it's where like I buy like nice Levi's. I'm like, oh, these are going to last. Nope. One tour in, cause like you have stage clothes, this, you might not wear outside of being on stage, next tour you go put them back on. First show you rip your pants. Like, sick, it's a good thing I wear underwear.
Yeah.
And then there was one show. Now I will never do this again. We used to be sponsored by an energy drink company called Cocaine Energy, which were terrible. They were so gnarly, but it was an energy drink. And we got a bunch of them. So I chugged one literally right before I went on to play. Like, sound check was done right before we hit play for our backing track or click track. I just chugged a full energy drink, and I was so nauseous that whole entire set, just holding back from throwing up on everybody. And as soon as we were done, that's exactly what I did. I ran to the bathroom and got sick. So that I'll never do again.
Any major transportation issues leaving you stranded?
On Aenimus's first tour, yeah. On like day 2, our van broke down, like the transmission went out on it. But luckily, the band that we were going out with, As Death Comes Calling, they had just bought a new van and hadn't gotten rid of their old one. So we ended up having my dad go pick up that van and drive it to where we were so that we could finish the tour. Yeah, so that was the only time where we got kind of stranded, but we had a day off, thankfully, too, so we didn't even miss a show.
Perfect.
Yeah, otherwise, like, since then, the new van that we've gotten has been great. It's all about maintenance and, a little advice is, before every tour is, like, go get your vehicle checked out. Make sure that there's no problems that you might not notice, but that a mechanic might notice. So, like, literally, before every tour, like, the month before, I'll take it in and get a travel inspection done on it. And they'll just look through the whole thing. They'll drive it. And then, like, I've had not several times, but a few times where, like, yeah, you should do this, like, we need to replace this seal because it's leaking oil down here. And, you don't want to lose your drive shaft or whatever it was, So I definitely recommend that because since that first time, like, we've never been stranded. We've had some, like, close calls on the road due to weather conditions, but never stranded from the van breaking down or anything again. So pretty lucky there.
How about the worst promoter or just overall situation you've been in? Which one to name, right?
Yeah. With me being a booking agent and knowing a lot of the people I send my packages to, like, I haven't had very many issues, to be honest. Except for there was one show in Chicago where the guy screwed the whole entire tour package, didn't pay, and it was my tour, so like I gave all the rest of the bands cash out of my pocket. I paid them their guarantees, so like I was literally out like I think it was like $700. It took the guy like months to finally pay it, and what happened was I had to call up a friend who was also working with this guy, and kind of like a dual threat, we're going to blacklist you, blah, 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 finally got us paid. But honestly, we don't run into that issue very often. I think it's because I have a relationship with most of these buyers, thankfully. So,
Lastly, what's one of the most random things to happen on tour or at a show for you?
I think the most random thing was when we almost went to jail in Texas. Because like none of us are like troublemakers or anything, but like a couple people in the band at that time smoked pot, and one of the members, even though like I don't smoke pot, and so like I tell my band members like just never bring it to Texas, just don't do it. 'Cause Texas is very strict on it. This one unnamed band member, no longer in the band, brought pot, pipe, and a scale. I don't know why he had a scale, but when the cop pulled us over, I didn't think anything of it. Like I thought, we don't have anything. Everyone knows not to bring anything in Texas, so we let him search the van, and that apparently is what saved us because he had a canine unit, and he said if I would have made him, if I would have said no, and he would have pulled out the dog would have smelled it, he would have took us all to jail, just because he doesn't, have time for people like that or whatever, something like that. But while we were waiting outside, when his partner showed up, his partner asked us, "So y'all in a band?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're in a band." And he's all, "What kind of music do y'all play?" And I responded to him, I was like, "We're in a metal band. Do you like metal?" And he literally pulled out and flashed his gun and said, "This is the only type of metal I like."
Oh
And then
no.
put his gun back away. And like, I like lost my mind, dude. Like, I thought we were going to die for a second. like literally like clenching my butt cheeks. Like, whoa, did this guy just threaten us? Like, was this a threat to shoot us if we do something? Like,
Dude, that is absolutely insane because like in my experience, we've always had great luck in Texas with like authority people. They're always super friendly.
Yeah.
It's always that, hey, y'all in a band? And it's
Yeah.
like, you probably play that metal stuff, don't you? And it's like, yeah, cool, sweet, we're all good. But yeah, this is the only kind of metal I like. That is nuts.
Dude, it was legit scary. Like, all of us, there was 6 of us outside of the van. It was like 110 degrees. We've been out there for hours because he was searching through. Because when he found the scale and everything, he was looking through the trailer. He was tearing apart our van, And, so I'm sure the guy was just, his partner was probably just really frustrated. The fact that, like, we told him there was nothing in there. And so now they have to search through everything based on what they found. And I don't know, but he was not friendly.
Man.
And that was really random because, like, we've been pulled over other times where it has been super friendly. Like, the guys are super cool. We've never had another close call where we almost went to jail or anything, We're all smart about what we do now on tour, obviously. Like, I try and run an even tighter ship now, being the one who kind of runs everything for the band. But, yeah, that was pretty crazy.
You're the show's first guest to be on both ends of the industry as a performer and an agent, as you've mentioned. What got you interested in being a booking agent?
I just did it one day. Like, my old high school band wanted to do like some shows out of town. I was just like, it was back in MySpace, where you could just, post on a band's wall, be like, "Yo, let's play a show." And then it was literally like that, like, "Sick, we got a show," So I was just doing that, with my band, and then when I started up Aenimus, we wanted to do some bigger tours, and I, did some Google search and Facebook searching. Facebook event pages is how I got like all my contacts. I would look at a band's tour flyer that was like around the same size as us, and I would search on Facebook or Google like Abiotic, the Boardwalk, Orangevale, this date. Find the event page, see who the host is, get their contact information. And that's how I started doing it. Like, that's how I built up a huge contact list. And then, ended up, friends, bands saw that we were touring. I was like, dude, who's booking your tours? Oh, it's just me, And so then, I started getting asked by other people. So I started up my own little agency at the time called Sojourner Booking. Initially, I started it just to have like a separation between, so they didn't necessarily just assume, oh, this is just some band dude trying to book his own band. I thought, hey, maybe it'll be better received if it's coming from a booking agent. Maybe that's how it did work. I don't know, but it worked out, and I ended up working with the guys at Artery a lot on shows at the Boardwalk, and ended up going in for an interview one day when Eric Rushing asked if I was interested in working with Artery Global, and got me in touch with Trevor, and and then just it went from there. I got the job, and it was kind of a side gig for a while, but it's been a year now that it's been my full-time job, so I quit my job at Costco of 9 years to really just go full on and make music my career, because you can't always make a living off of playing music, but, being involved in the music industry is, it's still music. It's still my passion. That's what I'm doing.
For sure. Awesome, man. Well, hey, congrats on that. That's cool, man.
Thank you.
How many artists do you oversee currently?
I think somewhere between 15 and 20. It fluctuates all the time, picking up new bands leaving, bands breaking up, it's kind of how it goes. But I think somewhere around 20 right now.
So let's revisit our Eternal Mile questions, but this time for you as an agent.
Okay.
How many tours have you booked in your career? If you had to guess.
Maybe close to like 200.
What was the first tour that you booked as an agent?
As an agent was the, what was it called? I think it was called the Gone for Wind Tour. It was Aenimus and Apparitions. I think that was the first one I booked as Sojourner Booking. Yeah.
As an agent, was that a good, bad, or neutral experience?
It was a great experience. It was so much easier than doing it from like the band email. It was also my first successful tour, like where all the bands came home with money, like they didn't lose money. So it was cool.
Favorite markets to book?
Like the Western U.S. in general. Like East Coast is really cool because the drives are shorter for bands, but I think I've toured the Western U.S. a lot more, so it's definitely a lot easier. The Midwest is just kind of crap.
I would definitely agree on the Midwest. Being from the Midwest, I've every time we get a tour opportunity, I'm just like, please be a Michigan date and please be a good Michigan venue, and we never get it. And especially for me, everybody always assumes, okay, Michigan, Detroit. I'm on the complete opposite side of the state where we have like nothing. My hometown, Muskegon, we have next to nothing. Grand Rapids, which is 45 minutes away, sometimes gets shows.
Yeah, rarely. What's funny is like I've tried selling a couple shows to Grand Rapids, but I've never successfully sold a show to Grand Rapids.
And it's a shame because, like, that's our big city for this side of the state. Beyond that, it's like 2.5 hours to get to Lansing, which, yeah, they get shows out there, but it's always just Warren, Detroit, and, like, Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti.
Yeah.
Favorite talent buyers and production companies to work with?
Some people I'm really close to because I've worked a lot with them would be like Pinup Productions out on the West Coast. Joel and his team, I work with them on many different levels because they do management too. Anthony Stevenson, Come and Ticket Productions in Austin, Texas. He is one of the most down to earth dudes, and like he's so passionate about it, and really like you can tell he recently bought a venue, like legit got his own venue, and it's super nice. Come and Take It Live. You can just tell like he's very dedicated to it and passionate, and he's a really cool dude. So yeah, those are two of my top favorite people to work with. Yeah.
What's one of the more random locations you've booked?
Probably in Humboldt County where I live. Not many tours come through here. Like, there's been some big artists who come out here, some hip hop, but for the most part, any like metal stays out of here because there's not much here. There's like one other buyer out here who does a lot of like underground, punk and sludge, type stuff. But for the most part, no one sends tours here. So when now that I moved out here again, I've brought a couple shows that were my tours and hosted them myself at a local venue, and it's been actually super sick. My band played out here in July, and we sold out the venue called the Siren Song Tavern. It's just a 100-cap venue, but with the 100 tickets sold, and then like there was 5 bands in there, it was freaking packed, and it was super fun, and it's the middle of nowhere, but kids come out and they enjoy it. So,
what would you consider to be the biggest rookie mistake for an agent?
Taking a buyer for their word and not like fully taking the necessary steps to really confirm your shows with contracts, whether it's just something written up, like a little agreement. Unfortunately, there's a lot of shady people out there, and even if your band might not be making enough to where a contract, you would take someone to court over it. The contracts they make everyone, because there is the risk there that like, you never know, like maybe this agent is that kind of guy on principle. He'll take you to court over $150, even if it costs him money, So I think like just contracting your dates is really important as an agent. And I know there's a lot of buyers out there who don't do it, or a lot of agents who don't do that. And then another thing is that like there's some agents that just aren't honest with their artists, where like, I've heard of agents who, tell a band, like they give this band the itinerary, say like all these shows are confirmed. And unfortunately, like the agent really didn't confirm all those shows, maybe a couple of them are, but then, bands show up and no one's there because the shows were not ever confirmed. This guy was just, dishonest and couldn't tell his artist, look, I couldn't get all the shows booked, So you really have to be honest, and, you're dealing with other people's money and their dreams, like bands who, when they first start to tour, like, they're stoked because they've always dreamed of doing this, so take care of them. Some people make the mistake and it ruins their chance of becoming an actual, bigger agent because they were dishonest or they screwed someone over or they just screwed up and weren't contracting and doing smart plays, so.
What's one of the wilder excuses you've heard from a promoter?
It was actually the Chicago promoter that I talked about with my band. Not his excuse for not paying us the day of. The day of was whatever. Like the show was shot, like he was losing his ass. Let's be real, whether that was his fault or our fault, it was a group fault. The show did not work. But when I was trying to collect the payment from him, it was always the same thing. Like, oh, I don't have the money. I'll get it to you in 2 weeks. Follow up in 2 weeks. Oh, I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. I just got, laid off work, whatever it was. There was one time after, I think it was like a couple months later, where like I was texting him and at this point he just stopped responding. So like I was following up every day at that point. I'm like, dude, if you're going to disrespect me to the point where you're just going to ignore me, like I'm going to annoy the shit out of you. Because this was, $700 out of my pocket. Like, I'm a musician. I'm broke. I got a text back from him. Hi, this is so and so's daughter. I see you're trying to get a hold of my dad, but my dad is currently in jail due to violating his parole. and I was just like, so your dad's in jail and he gave you his phone so you could text back a booking agent about how he's in jail, like, and why he can't pay me my money again. Like, it was just the dumbest excuse. I was like, dude, I know you're not in jail. I know this isn't your daughter. Just tell me that you're not going to pay me. Like, just tell me that I'm never going to get my money back.
Wow. I mean, I've heard weird stuff, but that is
Right?
currently that is the champion.
Yeah, that was strange.
So before we wrap this up, I'm curious to hear what you'd have to say to a few different groups of people, and we'll start from the perspective of a musician. What advice would you give to local bands? Not necessarily local to your area, but just in general.
Well, for a local band trying to, take that next step into becoming, say, a regional band or just someone who plays out of town shows, like, it's all about making connections. Utilize your social media, get to know, check out what bands are in other places and get to know them first before you do anything. Go out to their shows. If you're in the Bay Area and your band's from San Jose and you want to play shows in Sacramento, take the time and drive out to Sacramento and start going to those shows and getting to know those bands, or hitting, the members up on Facebook and getting to know them, and then bring up the fact, hey, I'm in a band too. A lot of bands go at this total wrong approach where they will either just spam someone, like a promoter, like, hey, put us on your show, put us on your show, put us on your show. It's like, this promoter's got money on the line. They can't just put you on their show. But if you get to know the person or these other bands, like, they're going to want to put you on the show because they're going to want to hang out with you, or they're going to want to see your band play, because they like your band. But it's all about relationships if you're trying to grow your band. So,
What advice would you give promoters? I suppose you could also think of it as an agent as well. I mean,
yeah.
it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it kind of does. As a musician, I would say build your shows based off of the band, like the headlining bands. Like, it's not too often, but every now and again, Aenimus is like a progressive death metal band. And we're on tour and we'll play a show with high school kids playing All American Rejects covers. Opening up for us, and it's like, it's cool. I actually enjoy watching them, but I'm like, it doesn't make sense because it's not benefiting these bands that are traveling around the country playing, because they're playing in front of the wrong, potential fans. They're playing in front of people who want to hear All American Reject covers. So as a band's perspective, like, sometimes that's frustrating, is playing with other bands that make absolutely no sense.
Switch over to now as an agent. What advice would you give to other agents?
Be smart with the tours that you book. Don't agree to book a tour for bands that aren't ready to tour. For bands, like, it's the digital age, so, like, everyone has access to booking tours. And all it's doing is, with all these small time agents or bands who are wanting to tour, it's flooding the markets. And it's making it hard for people who are ready to tour to get their dates, confirmed, because we have this band who has a date confirmed that is literally going to bring nobody out to a show. And, like, I understand venues need to fill up their dates too. But, like, that's one thing I try and tell, other agents, if they want to grow, they also need to focus on who they're working with, so make sure that you're booking quality tours. Like, don't just book your friend's band because they want to hit the road or whatever. Like, if make sure that it makes sense for these people to be on the road. That's coming from someone who does this for a living, and who gets frustrated when I can't get a date because this other package has the date I need, and my package will actually bring money and revenue to the venue of the club, and this band is just going to eat it all up.
What advice would you give to bands looking for representation?
Grow your fan base using social media before you look for any type of representation. Like, it's got to be, a legit agency works off commission. So you have to be at a place where you're worth my time, essentially. This is my full-time job. If your band is not worth, at least $100 every single night so that I can get $10 for every show that I'm booking you, you shouldn't be hitting me or any other agent up. You're not ready to tour. You're ready to continue putting out your music and growing your fan base online. We're lucky to have as much as Facebook does suck these days for bands and businesses in general, we're still very lucky to have it. Social media is the best way to grow your business and your band. And if you're looking to tour, you need to think of it as a business. And grow your band via social media, and then reach out for representation. Another thing, make it quick. I don't like getting novels. Like, most of the time I'll skim read them and then I'll click the links. Like, if you're going to send an email, just get it to the point. Hey, this is my band. This is what we've done. Here's our music. Here's our social network. Make it quick.
And lastly, what advice would you give someone who is interested in becoming a talent buyer or a booking agent?
If you're interested in becoming a talent buyer, have money. If you are broke, do not become a talent buyer. You should never book a show. As a talent buyer, you should never put on a show unless you have the money to cover that whole entire show if nobody shows up. Because I don't know if you saw it, but I saw the photos of Mayhem Festival a few years ago, like the Devil Wears Prada playing this huge theater with like 15 people there. This photo went viral. It's like, even with big bands, like, there's times where shows just flop, So if you don't have money, don't become a talent buyer. For someone who wants to become a booking agent, be ready to work hard for very little. Booking tours takes a lot of time and dedication. Like, you have to be available when your bands are on tour. Like, I get calls in the middle of the night, that I have to take sometimes, because my band they have a question, about the deal that's happening that night, whatever it is. Like, you have to be able to invest a lot of time. So ultimately, you should probably have another source of income if that's what you're trying to do as a career. Be prepared to put in a lot of time and not make much. But the potential is there. Everyone, if they put their mind to it, can grow. I've grown significantly as a booking agent over the last 3 years. I didn't think I was going to be doing it full time. Like I said, it started out, I was just doing it for my band. So, but I'm still not making very much money.
But you're doing what you love.
Exactly. I'm passionate about it. It's really cool. I get to work with people that I idolized, growing up. I get to hang out with them, get to help them, in their career, learn the ins and outs of the music industry, kind of behind the scenes. It's really cool. And I can do it from wherever I am, so it's something that's really helped me with touring, with my band is, when I'm on tour, I can still work and make money, which is important. Being in a touring band is having that income source that you can make while you're on the road, unless you have a job that makes you enough money to do, to tour and not be working. So
before we go, anything you'd like to plug?
I'd just say check out Artery Global. It's the company I work for. We have a great roster of bands. We're a worldwide agency with offices in the UK and in the US. So definitely check that out. We got a lot of great tours that are happening going into this next year, and a lot that are currently happening now. As well, check out my band Aenimus. We have a new album next year, and we're really excited for it. So,
Seth, great talking to you. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to chat here. Best of luck moving forward with all your endeavors, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me, Noah. It was a lot of fun.
That concludes this episode. I'd like to thank Seth for coming on the show. Be sure to check out the Aenimus discography, and also check out Seth's artists over at Artery Global to see if there's any shows coming to your area. Don't forget to follow the show on all social media, and if you enjoyed what you heard, stop on over to Patreon and show your support. I've been Noah Sias, and thank you for listening.